What's going on, guys? Welcome to part 2 of the Net Alliance Q&A. Part 1 is actually in the description below. I answered like the first half questions by myself, and then I decided to bring in the nerd and Gold Wulf to come help me answer the rest of them. So with that said, let us jump in. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we are joined by Gold Wulf and we have the nerd. Today we're going to answer a bunch of questions you guys left for us in the comments. If you want to leave future questions for us to answer, leave them in the comments below now, because if we use your suggestions, we will give you shout outs in those specific videos. I'm going to be putting the questions on the screen as well. Like I said with the questions, you can leave whatever type of topics you want. It doesn't matter what they are. They can be Star Wars, they can be Disney, they can be like Lord of the Rings, they can be High School Musical, whatever. Just leave the questions down in the comments below, because we will try our best to answer them the best we can. Now, with that said, is everybody ready?
Oh, yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
let's begin. Okay, so our first question for the day is from Tyler Bowers, and he asked the question, who would you say is the best lightsaber duelist in every trilogy? So let's say we're talking about prequels, originals, and sequels. Who is the best duelist we've seen out of each of them? So who'd like to go first?
Do this. I'll be brave. I'll be brave. Here we go. So each trilogy, not each movie, right?
Yeah,
Okay. So man, that's I mean, I want to say Qui-Gon would be up there, but then it's like the contradiction to that is okay, but he gets killed. But you know, it happens. Everyone gets caught in a fight. That's one of them. But I think it's tough to say. I would say Anakin's probably the most talented, but unfortunately, he hasn't got control of his emotions yet, and he gets, he is
that's fair.
he is prone to getting defeated. I want to say Obi-Wan, but I don't know. It's such a tough one. But maybe you'd have to give it to Mace Windu, just because Mace Windu beat Palpatine. I know there's speculation on did Palpatine let it happen, this, that, and the other, but I would probably have to go with Mace Windu. I know we haven't seen too much of him. It's a tough question. I like the question. It's a challenging one. But maybe Mace Windu. That's just where my gut's going right now for the prequels. For the original trilogy, I'm gonna have to go with Darth Vader. I know Luke bested him towards the end, but he just overall throughout the span of the films was a better duelist, and it showed. And he should have
That's
been.
fair.
He should have been because Luke was still learning, and there's that. But it's a tough question, but it's a fun question. And then I guess for the Disney fun, um, I guess Ray because she kicked the butt of the Dark Lord of the Sith the first time she's picked up a lightsaber. So hey, I mean, is what it is, right? I don't know.
That's fair, I guess. What do you think, the nerd? What would you say?
So I'm probably gonna have to go with for the prequels, probably Palpatine because yes, Mace Windu beat him technically, but it feels like the whole thing. I feel like he let that happen. It doesn't feel like just from what we see from Palpatine, he was able to beat Yoda pretty much. I mean, technically neither of them won, but he did have the upper hand. So I just don't think that and how fast he's able to take out all those other Jedi Masters when Mace Windu and the other Jedi went to confront him. He was able to take out all those Jedi, and I just don't believe that he was able to be taken like I feel like he was probably better than Mace Windu. I feel like Palpatine like let Mace Windu win that fight so Anakin could like unleash his true power and like kind of like fully turn to the dark side. So for the prequels I'm gonna have to go with Emperor Palpatine.
Changed my mind. You've changed my mind. I think it is hard not to give it to Palpatine now that you say it because he did beat Yoda and he did cut down Jedi quicker than anyone ever could. And dang, that's tough to ignore. I know in lore, Dooku's supposed to be the top dog, but Anakin just made it look easy in the third episode. So, yeah, you know what? I think I'm gonna have to. I think you convinced me to change to Palpatine.
Yeah. Yeah. For the originals though, I'm probably gonna have to agree with you and say that Darth Vader was the best. He is Anakin Skywalker, and Anakin Skywalker is the chosen one, so I feel like he is the most powerful. And from what we saw, like I know Rogue One doesn't technically count, but from what we saw in Rogue One, how powerful he was taking out all of those troopers, it just seems like he was a really powerful duelist, and we did see that quite a bit in the originals. So yeah, I'm probably gonna have to go with Darth Vader for the originals. And for the sequels, that is a tough one, but yeah, I'll probably have to go with Rey too. She was able to beat Kylo Ren without without really any training at all, so it's kind of hard not to give it to her. Though Kylo Ren was hurt, and that might have made him a little weaker, it doesn't
True.
dismiss the fact that she did beat him without any training. So, yeah, those are probably my picks.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with both of you guys. On the level of the prequels, with the best duelist, there's a lot of different elements that come into that because like some duelists are better at certain things. Like let's say I needed more defensive best duelist, I'd put Obi-Wan on my side. You know, if I want one of the best offensive ones, I'd put Anakin there. You know what I mean? So it's really tough. I guess overall, I'd probably pick between like yeah, Palpatine, Mace Windu, or Yoda. Mostly because with Yoda, he's like, you know, he's a little spider monkey. You know, he can jump around and use the Force to pretty much do whatever he wants to do. So I think overall, yeah, I'll go Palpatine, Yoda, or Mace. I really can't choose between all three of them, just because Mace is able to walk the line of both light and dark, and he can use that to his advantage, especially when he's versing someone who's on the dark side, which you know he used against Palpatine. Overall, though, I guess I would agree with you guys as far as Palpatine is probably the best duelist because what we've seen him do. And to be fair, he is the Dark Lord. You know what I mean? He should be very powerful, and he is. He slows down more in the original trilogy, obviously. But as far as the prequels go, Palpatine, yeah, that'd make sense. Overall, from every standpoint, versatile speaking, he probably is the very best. From that point of view.
Not only that, Net, but I know, like I mentioned, Dooku's supposed to be in lore the best swordsman, but Yoda and Dooku, they were able to hang with each other for a while, but Yoda couldn't finish the job. But it's hard to picture if Dooku turned on Palpatine not just ending him if you wanted to. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, you're right.
Thinking of it that way too. Yeah. If you take Palpatine away, I think this becomes a more interesting question. And obviously, if you take older Palpatine, original trilogy Palpatine, and place him in here, maybe he would be more vulnerable. Maybe not. I don't know, because you can make the argument that he probably got tougher with the Force. But as far as a duelist, he was getting older. He was slowing down. So I'm not. It's an interesting question, though. We could probably make a whole entire hour discussion on
that. That is true.
Yeah.
We could really dive deep in that. If you guys want to see that, let us know in the comments below.
Oh yeah.
So original trilogy. So it's actually pretty easy to pick original trilogy because you have Luke and Vader. You know what I mean? Like that's it. That's all you can choose. You can technically say Yoda if you want, but we don't see Yoda with the lightsaber. Obi-Wan, yes, we do see Obi-Wan. You're right. I wouldn't say this older Obi-Wan isn't as skilled as younger Obi-Wan in my opinion. The spin with the lightsaber. Yeah, that's always good. I thought it was very effective. It threw Vader off. He was like, "Wait, are you gonna let you spin quick, or are we gonna?" So it worked. But yeah, I'd say Vader. I think that one's evident. I've explained in a couple different my videos in the past that between Luke, while Luke did beat Vader, Vader was also fighting on two fronts in his final fight between the Anakin fighting himself, inside of him, and he was fighting externally Luke. So there's a lot of different elements that go into why Luke actually beat Vader. Not that, of course, Vader let Luke win, but Luke beat Vader because of the extra elements that go into that. So I will say that if we're going off a base duelist, like let's say if Vader was fighting just a random Jedi, he didn't know he was a son. Anakin wasn't trying to, fight from inside of Vader. It was empty husk Vader that we saw in Rogue One. Rogue One Vader would have smoked Luke, but it's because, well, I shouldn't they smoked him. Luke might have been able to do pretty good, but Vader would have won. So yeah, I definitely would say like original trilogy wise, Vader is probably the best duelist. Like I said, you can only really pick between two people. So yeah, Vader are three people, and Vader is the best of all of them. Sequel trilogy, this one gets a little more complicated, even though you can technically only choose between two again. But if we're going off of like what I think perspective based off of feats, yes, Rey did beat Kylo, but Kylo was injured in Force Awakens, so you can kind of, like the nerd said, you can kind of like let that go a little bit. But when we look at their final fight in Episode 9, while technically Kylo did lose, he only lost because Leia connected through him through the Force, and she sacrificed herself to effectively stop him. So if you watch that fight, Rey is on the back pedal the whole time. Rey is getting tired. Rey is getting slower. Kylo is still calm, collected, and still striking her. And it's almost interesting because that fight is very interesting on the way that Kylo is the dark side. He should be the one who's aggressive. He should be the one who is, ah. But instead, their roles almost switched. We have our Jedi being and the Sith who's like quiet and calm. So I think that's one of those interesting moments that like the Rise of Skywalker altogether is rough, but that's actually a really cool dynamic when you look at it that way. So I have to probably say Kylo is probably the best duelist in the sequel trilogy, but I would understand if you wanted to, if someone were to pick Rey, obviously, because in a way they're both connected by the Force dyad anyways, right? So they both are just the same power, like the same strength anyways. So either way, you're not wrong. Like either one is technically good. So yeah, that would be my answer to that at least. Any final thoughts, closing ideas for this one, guys, before we move on?
Well, I was going to add on what you were saying about how kind of like Rey was kind of showing more like of the dark side and Kylo was showing more of the light side. It was also kind of like that in The Last Jedi when they were fighting against those Snoke's guards. Like Kylo was being more like, he wasn't going as aggressive as Rey was. So
True.
It did kind of show like what seemed like kind of a missed opportunity for like kind of Kylo to join Rey and him to be kind of a good guy in that movie. But I guess that did happen in the Rise of Skywalker, but it seemed like that's kind of what it was hinting towards. And I wasn't like super happy with the fact that Kylo Ren kind of just in that movie. Well, I'm not going to go into this because it's just kind of ranting about stuff, but yeah.
That's all right. We understand. Yeah, no, yeah, it is a cool dynamic to really consider if you want to look at that, the fact that the Jedi was more Sithly than the Sith, which is, it's cool to look at it like that. Okay, our next question. This is from Nanimator, and he has 2 questions actually. So the first question is, who would win, Kylo Ren and Darth Vader, or Darth Maul and Savage Opress? This one is kind of obvious to me. In his opinion, he thinks it's Kylo Ren and Darth Vader. And then the second question is, which Star Wars movie do you enjoy the most from each trilogy? Okay, so this might be a relatively quick question, but there's 2 of them. So let me just go over mine and I'll get you guys. For the first one, yeah, Kylo Ren and Vader. Whoever has Vader on their team effectively wins that fight. Savage is like a tank, which is really good. However, he is very sloppy. And of course, Maul, of course, is more of a focused warrior. But I mean, Maul versus Vader, Vader would be able to smack, especially Vader like.
Oh, I don't know.
Like Prime Vader. I mean, ultimately, it comes down to whether they're able to outsmart Vader and then deal with Kylo. And that's just my opinion. What do you guys think?
I think there's, I don't know, man. I think that'd be close, but I think if they had that match 10 times, I think Darth Maul and Savage could win it maybe 6 out of 10. And here's why I say that.
Oh, okay.
Here's why I say that. Okay, so Darth Maul, and I know a bit about Savage Opress. I haven't seen every single Clone Wars, but I know enough to know about him, and obviously Darth Maul. Okay, so yes, Vader is awesome. He's my favorite villain. He's almost the whole entire world, especially Star Wars world's favorite villain. But Vader's also slowed down by a suit. Now, I'm not saying that takes away from his power. Okay, I think Vader is obviously the strong link in his side of that battle, but Kylo Ren doesn't grow up facing a variety of different skilled Jedi swordsmen the way Darth Maul does. And Savage Opress obviously has similar skills as well. They both have the double-bladed lightsabers, right? So I think there could be a lot of that's also not something that Kylo's ever had to face, as far as I'm aware, unless they were sparring with other Jedi growing as he was getting trained by Luke Skywalker. I think if you take Kylo out of the fight quick, and I'm not saying Kylo's a wimp. Kylo Ren's my favorite character in the sequels. I think he's arguably the only interesting character in my opinion.
That's fair.
But he also, I know he was hurt. I said it before, I'll say it again. He got his butt whooped by a chick who's never touched a lightsaber before, and a stormtrooper. Well, he didn't get whooped by Finn, but a stormtrooper was able to stand toe-to-toe with him for a while. That just shouldn't happen. And there just wasn't as much competition at that time as there was with Darth Maul fighting. Now, and Vader's hindered, right? So I think if Savage and Darth Maul can take out Kylo Ren quick, because he's not used to that type of ferocity, and that's 4 blades against 2.
That's fair.
If you can get taken out quick, then it's Darth Vader, who's hindered by his suit, fighting 2 trained assassins with 4 lightsaber blades. I sound all Clone Wars-y, like, oh, all right, well, I got 6 plays, I got 8 plays. No, but I'm just saying, I think there's an argument to be made that these two are coming from a different time, and Vader did as well as Anakin, but now he has like a robotic suit that slows him down significantly. Um, I
I
mean, I
understand
don't
the
know.
argument. I could like the whole like 10 out of 10 times like if they were to fight. I agree with the idea that Maul and Savage would probably win a few, but I wouldn't say they'd win the majority. But I do understand your argument there. I just think mostly um, Vader's ability to just bash through his enemies, and I think as far as his the way he approaches fights. Savage might be able to break through his defense aggressively, but Vader would have let it happen and then got a vital strike on him, if you know what I mean.
What
Like it
about
would have
Kylo?
been. See, that's the thing. Like you mentioned, if they both team up quick, take out Kylo, and then deal with Vader, I could see the argument for them actually being able to beat him. But if we see like the biggest argument too is I know Emperor Palpatine, as far as the Clone Wars goes, he goes and takes on both Savage and Maul, and he manhandles them with little effort. You know what I mean? So I think it's one of those things like that is more powerful than Vader is, but I think that Vader's Force abilities as well would be able to really go against that attack. But what do you think, the nerd? How would you say? Like, where would you come at this point of view?
So that's a tough question because I haven't seen too much of Savage Press's power, so I don't know really his skill level. But I will say I've seen quite a lot of Kylo Ren and Darth Vader to get a basic understanding of how skilled they are. And Darth Maul is very skilled as well. He was able to take on 2 Jedi at once. Though he did
Mm-hmm.
have a double-bladed lightsaber, but he was still able to take them on and pretty much beat both of them. If Obi-Wan wasn't able to like jump out of the pit and slice him, then he probably would have won that fight.
Yeah,
So
I mean that's true. Obi-Wan did. I mean, Obi-Wan did technically win by accident. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Like he won because of reasons, like because of the
yeah,
reasons that have to
but
do with the,
technically he lost.
he would have lost that fight had he not been able to actually outsmart Maul. And Maul, of course, was at sitting on the edge. He was slicing at the edge, thinking he's all like, "This is easy," you know what I mean? And that was a big mistake. Obi-Wan used that to his advantage. And that's one of the cool things too about Obi-Wan is the fact that he is just like always calm and collected. It's that perspective. Even when he got like angry because he watched Qui-Gon die, he brought it back together and he finished off Maul, and he shouldn't have won that fight, but he did. That's one of the best parts about that. But still, you would say that you'd say Vader and Kylo would win like at least 6 7 times out of 10, or would you say like more or less, or what would you think?
You know, the more that I think about it and seeing that Kylo Ren, though he is skilled, he was beaten by someone who had never held a lightsaber before. And yes, he was injured, like we said, but I feel like he should have been able to, I don't know, handle it better and should like fight through it. But I don't know. Oh, it's tough. It's a
That's
really tough
understandable.
question.
What do you guys think? Well, let you guys decide. Let us know in the comments below. Who do you think would win that fight? Like I said, let us know down below.
Good question.
Yeah, it is. I guess we'll move on to the second part of the animator's question. He then asked, which Star Wars movie do you enjoy the most from each trilogy? The nerd, would you like to go first?
Okay, so for me, this is really easy. From
Yeah,
the
this is pretty
original,
simple.
yeah, from the prequels, it's Revenge of the Sith. From the originals, it's The Empire Strikes Back. And from the sequels, I'm probably going to have to say The Force Awakens. And if we're counting the spin-offs, I'm going to have to go with Rogue One. So yeah, those are the highlights for each trilogy for me. I feel like The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones are just, they've got a lot more problems and cringy dialogue. And Revenge of the Sith, though it does have some of that, the action and like everything else kind of makes up for it for me. And for the originals, Empire Strikes Back, of course, because it's a perfect movie. I mean, there are, of course, like some nitpicky things you can say about it, but as a whole, it is a really good movie. Though A New Hope is very close, I just feel like Empire Strikes Back is just more entertaining to me and just flows a little better, has
Yeah.
more
Yeah, it's got more
has
charisma
better
to it. It's
pacing.
more
Yeah,
the
better
pacing.
pacing.
It's overall just a very solid film. So I agree with that. And you said The
Yeah,
Force Awakens. Why would you say The Force Awakens?
because they're all pretty bad. The Force Awakens.
That's okay.
The only one that it's remotely watchable.
The lesser of all evils. We get it.
Yeah.
All right. So Gold Wolf, what would you say?
Yeah, it's pretty simple for me. It's going to be episode 3. I agree with everything the nerd said about that to a T. This whole analysis on the prequels, action's it's just phenomenal, and the way they tied in all the politics and everything from the rest of the prequels, episode 1 and 2, and then tie it in to set you up for the dark times and all that, and then the obviously the original trilogy. I just think that they hit the nail on the head. It's just I always felt like episode 3 was what we all wanted episode 1 to be and wasn't. Not that episode 1 didn't have good parts. Episode 1 obviously is, I think, most people's least favorite in the prequels, mine included. So episode 3, going into the original trilogy, it's an easy Empire Strikes Back as well. It's just, again, I agree with everything you both said about that. It's just a piece of art. It's such a good film, and as great as A New Hope was, they topped it, and that's what a sequel should do.
True.
And I think the only negative to that, if we're talking about the whole trilogies as a whole, is I know some people complain about Return of the Jedi. I think it's phenomenal as well. I just think that Empire was so good that maybe it's almost like, you're looking at a group of women, and man, she'd be an 8, she'd be a 9, but she's standing next to like Miss USA. She just goes down, and that's what Empire Strikes Back is. Yeah. And then you go into, you love my misogynist references, right?
Hey, we all understand it. Hey, what works. You know what I'm saying?
Works. And then going into the next 3, I think they're all 3 steaming pile of heaping turds. But the least smelly of the piles of turds would, for me, be episode 9. And I still don't like the movie, man. Don't get me wrong. I just feel like The Force Awakens, they didn't know if they were going to decide if they wanted to just redo A New Hope or do something different, just with worse characters. And why I can't get behind Force Awakens, I can't get behind any of them, but why I think Force Awakens for me is worse than episode 9, just to have some type of different perspective than the nerd, would probably be because Force Awakens is like the beginning poop of the pile of turds. Like you can't put the poop back in the person. It's already out, and you just gotta do your best to clean the pile of poop, which I think is what episode 9 was trying to do. But man, I could rant about. I have analogies for days, guys. I know, but I could rant about episode 9 too. I just thought it was so stupid to bring back the Emperor Palpatine and this, that, and the other. But I still felt like there was less shaming me and the other half of the United States for their views in episode 9 as there was, and especially especially as there was in episode 8. And I just felt like they took their foot off the gas because they were getting years of blowback from all that. But it was just the least cringiest, but it was still a cringe pile for me. So I guess episode 9 is the most shiniest of the turds.
So my problem with episode 9 is that it feels like episode 7 was trying to tell a story like Rey was a nobody, like meaning that anybody could have the Force, and I feel like that's kind of the story it was trying to tell. Like it's not just something specifically for the Jedi, but like anyone could have it, and that's what we saw in at the end of the movie with that little boy like grabbing the broom or whatever. It was supposed to like symbolize that anyone could have the Force, like even nobodies, and that's why Rey's parents were just nothing. And then episode 9 kind of messed that all up with making her be like a Palpatine. And like it does explain some things like why she was so gifted before, but I feel like it kind of makes The Last Jedi make even worse. So that's kind of my problem. And then there are other things. It just felt like it was trying to please the fans way too much, and it was just one big fan service of a movie, in my opinion.
I agree with you about episode 9. And when I found out that she was Palpatine's granddaughter, I'm just like, dude, give me a break. It's like you already did it. It's like the guy at the party who got a laugh because he told a joke, and he's like, whoa, well, that was a good response. I'm going to tell the same joke over and over again. It's like we already got Vader saying to Luke, I am your father. And it's like you got all these writers, you have unlimited money, Disney. You can do whatever you want. It's like, well, what if the only guy that was better than Vader. What if we make him not her father, but her grandfather?
Yeah.
Ooh, it's like, dude, give me a break. It was just so beyond dumb. However, though, I'll disagree with you on this. I feel the same way though about Force Awakens because they've already done that in the first ever Star Wars film ever. Luke was just a farm boy, So it's like, and that's where I feel like this let's just redo everything but make it crappy started. I think episode 7 is where it all started, but I do agree with you. I just felt the same way with episode 7 as well.
I think as far as this question goes, there is no true answer to the sequel. Which one's the best sequel?
We're just arguing about which one's worse.
It's not who's the best. It's just which one is the least worst. So that's pretty bad. So let's just we'll just say one of them is better than the others by a little bit. That's what we'll say. Let's jump into my prequels. For me, Revenge, Empire, for all the reasons they said. So there we go. That question is officially done. Thank you, Nanomator, for that question. Oh, damn. This is good. All right. Let's move on to our next one. This one is from...
Well said.
That's it for part 2 of the Q&A. If you guys want to see part 3, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn notifications. I'll have that out in a couple days, and I'll have a link to it in the description below. But thanks again for watching, and we'll catch you later. Peace.